So today we are going to see the next chapter, that is chapter 9, and the chapter 9 is New Empires and Kingdoms. Hmm. And as I said that yesterday, I had said that uh, from tomorrow, first of all, we will see the not see just scan the um, mm, activities part that are given in the end of chapter. We will see firstly those, and then we will start reading the chapter. So today we are going to start in the same manner. But also I want to integrate one more thing in this series, that I will discuss the lessons, the topics that we covered in previous chapter. Means the things that about which we did and we read in the previous chapter. In first 5 to 10 minutes, we will discuss those, and then we will start the new chapter, next chapter. So our previous chapter was village, town, and trade. So firstly, I want to give a quick uh, revision of that chapter. So in that chapter we studied about iron tools and agriculture, means how we were doing agriculture in ancient time and what are the tools that were used in that time. After that we also introduced the to increase production, more techniques in agriculture, like irrigation. For irrigation in the ancient time, we were start using uh, canals, artificial lakes, uh, or many type of irrigation systems. After that we studied about villages, who lived in the villages, and different category of peoples, those who were lived in villages. So villager, who was the owner of the most of the lands of village areas. This was the first category. And second category, that was uja uzarwan uzar uh, ujarwa. That was ordinary plowman. They have just uh, a little much lands to uh, do farming. And the third category of people was, that was Ka- Kadai Siar, who was landless, just laborers, who they used to perform uh, task in others' uh, farm. After that we studied about coins, and by analyzing coins we also know about different type of cities and trade routes and towns of all all over the world, who are connected with the Indian cities. So we studied about coins, means how and which type of coins were made that time, and how they are used. Cities with many functions, um, like different type of professionals, like blacksmith, goldsmith, barbers, and pottery makers, weavers, and what perfumers, and different professions of person were lived in the cities. And we also uh, know about like those cities, uh, those who were crossroad cities. Crossroad cities means where two trade routes, silk routes, are crossed to each other, like Mathura. Mathura is one of the great city of ancient time, because here two trade routes crossed to each other, and it was like a Vatican junction or some a central city of the trade routes. So these were grown very fastly at that time, and very uh, kings and the traders are used to these cities to uh, grow or flourishing their trade by using several craft persons, by giving them raw material and giving a contract to make different type of products to sell and trade with the others, or the with the people of other country or other state. So the mainly most of the good uh, craft persons were lived in the cities. And they were also funded by, or they were like a bank for the most of the people of cities, for traders and kings and queens too. They go to those uh, craft persons, and they uh, invest their money to them, uh, something like that. Also, we studied about craft person, traders, and trade routes, and also we introduce in the end some new kingdom along the coastals. So in the coastal area, when the traders use the sea routes to trade with the foreign countries, so the some kingdoms were erased in the coastal areas, and they started collecting the taxes from the traders, and the traders are often uh, hmm, often bound to pay them taxes. So they started paying lots of taxes in the several forms like gold, silver, coin, beautiful crafts, and um, spices like mm, also there is a great spice that were much famous in Rome, that is black pepper. Black pepper is known as is was called in the Roman time and the Roman areas, um, as a black gold. So uh, so they are very fond of to purchase spices from India, the Roman kingdom, or the traders of Rome too. And also they the coastal kingdom, who charge lots of sometime taxes, and more often they used to uh, want some gifts from those traders in the form of also uh, uh, the people who sing songs, and also some women's for uh, kings and the local kingdoms. So overall we discuss about these things, and these are not the things that we uh, have seen it in the real, with the real eyes. These all evidence are collected from the uh, archaeological uh, hmm, archaeological search by analyzing the old scriptures, old uh, elements and materials that were that were found in archaeological um, investigation archaeological investigation. And huh. So these are the main source of these all the things that we are studying today. Mm. Also burials that were found different region of India and other countries too. So now we are going to see the some activities work of the New Empire and Kingdom chapter 9. It is the second last chapter of our this history book. So first of all, we have to discuss about Harshavardhana's army will visit. Imagine your village next week. Your parents are preparing for the visit. Describe what they say to do. Let us recall a state where ruler true or false. Harisena composed a prasari in Paris of Gautami Pura Sri Satkarni. The rulers of Aryavarta bought tribute for Samudragupta. These were 12 rulers of in Dakshin Pantha. Takshashila and Madurai were important center under the control of the Gupta rulers. Ahiol was the capital of Pallavas. Local assemblies functioned for several centuries in South India. Next subjective question: mention 3 authors who wrote about Harshavardhana. What changes do you find in the army at this time? What were the new administrative arrangements during this period? Let's discuss. What do you think Arvind would have to do if there was acting as Samudragupta? Do you think ordinary people would have to read and understood the Prasastis? Give reason for an answer. We will discuss later. First, also we have to see the keywords. Parasasti, Aryavarta, Dakshin Pantha, genealogy, hereditary officer, Samanta, assembly, Nagaram. So let's begin the chapter. New Empire and Kingdom. Arvind plays a king. Arvind had been chosen to act as a king in a school play. He had expected to march solo money in splendid robbers. To twirl with mustaches and beard and silver paper wrapped sword with gusto. Imagine his surprise when he was told he would also have to sit and play a veena and recite poetry. A musician king. Who was that? He wondered. Parasist and what they tell us. Arvind was supported to be acting as Samudragupta, a famous ruler of dynasty known as Guptas. We know about Samudragupta from a long inscription inscribed on the Asoka pillar at Allahabad. It was composed as Kavya by Harisena, who was a poet and the minister at court of Samudragupta. This inscription is of a special king known as Parasasti, a Sanskrit word mean in Paris of P-R-A-I-S-E, price of praise of. While Parasastis were composed for some of the rulers you read about in chapter 8, such as Gautami Putra Sri Satkarni, they become far more important for the time of the Gupta. Samudragupta's Prasasti. Let us see what Samudragupta's Prasasti tells us. The poet praised the king glowing Tom as a warrior, as a king who won victories in battles, who was learned and the best of poet. He is also described as equal to gods. That's why I'm always criticizing modern poets and modern writers. Uh, I'm reading this line again. Some poets, that is one poet in the Samudraguptas, he is also described as equal to the god. All the poets who they are paid by whom, they always try to show them like a god. And modern days also this is in the progress. The Prasasti was composed in very long sentences. Here is a part of one such sentence. Samudragupta, the warrior, whose body was most charming, being covered with the plenteous beauty of markers, hundred of scars caused by battle axes, arrows, spears, barbed darts, swords, iron clubs, javelins, barbed arrows, long arrows, and many other weapons. What does this descriptions tells you about the king? That the kartuta of those poets, they are just emphasizing, and also about how kings fought wars. If you look at the map 7, page 37, you will notice an area shared in green. You will also find a series of red dots along the east coast, and you will find areas marked in purple and blue as well. This map is based on the information provided in the Prashasti. Harisena describe 4 different kinds of rulers and tell us about Samudragupta's policies towards them. The rulers of Aryavarta, the rulers of Aryavarta, 4 different kings rule. The rulers of Aryavarta, the area shared in green on the map here, there were 9 rulers who were. So this is the green area. Here there were 9 rulers who were uprooted and their kingdom were made at part of the Samudragupta's empire. The ruler of Dakshin Pantha, here there were 12 rulers. Some of the some of those capitals are marked with the red dots on the map. They surrendered to Samudragupta after being defeated, and he then allowed them to rule again. The inner circle of night boring estate, and including the Assam, coastal Bengal, Nepal, and numbers of Ghana shanks, remember, in this northwest marked in purple on the map. They bought tribute, followed his orders, and attended his court. The rulers of the outlying areas marked in the blue of the map, perhaps the descendant of the Kushans and Sakyas, and the ruler of Sri Lanka, who submitted to him and offered daughters in marriage. Find Prayaga on the name of the Allahabad, Ujjain, and Patliputra. Patna on the map. The current location is Patna. These were important center of the Gupta rulers. What was the difference between the way in which Samudragupta treated the rulers of the Aryavarta and Dakshin Pantha? Can you suggest any reason for this difference? What was the difference between the way in which Samudragupta treated with the rulers of the Aryavarta and Dakshin Pantha? Can you suggest any reason for this difference? Bikram Samvat. The era begins in the 58 BCE, is traditionally associated with Gupta king Chandragupta II, who had founded it as a mark of victory over the Saks and assumed the title of Vikramaditya. Genealogies. Most parasists also mention the ancestors of the rulers. This one mentions Samudragupta's great grandfather and mother. His mother Kumara Devi belonged to Lichvi Ganna, while his father Chandragupta was the first ruler of the Gupta dynasty to adopt the grand title of Maharaj Dhiraj, a title that Samudragupta also used. His great grandfather and grandfather are mentioned simply as Maharajas. It seems as if the family gradually rose to importance. Arrange this title in order of importance: Raja, Maharaja, Adhiraja, Maharaja. Samudragupta in turn figures in the genealogies list of ancestors of later rulers of the dynasty, such as his son Chandragupta II. We know about him for the inscriptions and coins. He led expedition to Western India, where he overcame the last of the Saks. According to the later belief, his court was full Lord people. About some of them you will read in chapter 10. Harshvardhana and Harshachitra. While we can learn about the Gupta rulers from their inscriptions and coins, we can find out about some kings from biographies. Harshvardhana, who ruled nearly 1400 years ago, was one such ruler. His court poet Vanabhatta wrote his biography, the Harsha Charitra in Sanskrit. This gives us a genealogy of Harsha and ends with his biocoming king Juhanjen, about whom you read in chapter 8. Also spent lots of time at Harsha's court and left detailed account of what he saw. Harsha was not the eldest son of his father, but became king of Thanesar after both his father and elder brother did. His brother-in-law was the ruler of Kanaus, and he was killed by the ruler of Bengal. Harsha took over the kingdom of Kanauj and then led an army against the ruler of Bengal. Although he was successful in the east and conquered Magadha and probably Bengal also, he was not successful elsewhere. He tried to cross the Narmada to march into the Deccan, but was stopped by a ruler belonging to the Chalukya dynasty, Pulkesin II. Look at the political map of India and list the present day state which Harshavardhana passed through when he went to Bengal and up to the Narmada. The Pallavas, Chalukyas and Pulkesins Parasasti. The Pallavas and the Chalukyas were the most important ruling dynasties in the South India during this period. The kingdom of Pallavas spread from the region around their capital Kanchipuram to the Kaveri Delta, while that of the Chalukyas was centered around the Raichur Dwab between the rivers Krishna and Tungabhadra. The capital of Chalukyas was important trading center and developed as regions centered with the numbers of temples. The Pallavas and Chalukyas frequently reached on another's lands, especially attacking the capital cities which were prosperous towns. The best known Chalukya's rule was Pulkesin II. We know about him from a prasasti composed by his court poet Ravikriti. This tells us about his ancestors who are traced back through 4 generations from father to son. Pulkesin evidently got the kingdom from his uncle. According to the Ravikirti, he led expeditions along both the west and the east coast. Besides, he checked the advance of Harsha. There is an interesting play of words in the poem. Harsha means happiness. The poet says that after this defeat, Harsha was no longer Harsha. Pulkesin also attacked the Pallava king, who took shelter behind the walls of Kanchipuram. But the Chalukyas' victory was short-lived. Ultimately, both the Palwas and the Chalukyas gave way to new rulers belonging to the Rashtrakuta and Chola dynasties, about which you will study in class 7. Who are the other rulers who tried to control the costs and why? How were this kingdom administrated? As in the cast of earlier king and land revenue remained the basic unit of administration, there were some new development as well. Kings adopted a number of steps to win the support of men who were powerful, either economically or socially, or because of their political and military strength. For instance, some important administrative posts were now hereditary. This means that sons succeed fathers to these posts. For example, the poet Harishena was Maha, Mahadanda Nayaka, or Chief Justice judicial officer like his father. Sometimes one person held many offices. For instance, beside being a Mahadanda Nayaka, Harishena was a Kumar Amatya, meaning an important minister, and Sindhi Vigrahika, meaning a minister of war and peace. Besides important man, probably he had say in the local administrations. These included the Nagara Sristhi, or chief banker or merchant of the city. The Sarthavaha, or leaders of the merchant caravans, the Parthama Kulika, or the chief craftsman, and the head of the Kayasads, or scribes. These policies were responsible effectively, but sooner or later some of these powerful men grew stronger enough to set up independent kingdoms. What do you think may have been advantages and disadvantages of having hereditary officers and new kinds of army? Like earlier rulers, some of these kings mentioned a well-ordinary army with infant, carrots, cavalry, and foot soldiers. Beside these were military leaders who provided the king with troops whenever he needed them. They were not paid regular salaries. Instead, some of them received grant of land. They collected revenue from the lands and used this to maintain soldiers and horses and provide equipments for warfare. These men were known as shamantas. Whenever the ruler was weak, shamantas tried to become independent. Assemblies in the southern kingdoms. The inscriptions of the Palwas mention a number of local assemblies. This included the Sabha, which was an assembly of Brahmin landowners. This assembly functioned through sub-committees which looked after irrigation, agricultural operations, making roads, local temples. The was a village assembly found in area where landowner were not Brahmin, and the Nagaram was an ordinary of the merchant. In his likely that these assemblies were controlled by rich and powerful landowners and merchants. Many of these local assemblies continued to be function for the centuries. Ordinary people in the kingdoms. We can catch an occasional glimpse of the lives of the ordinary people for plays and other counts. Let us look at some of these. Kalidasa is known for his plays depiction life in the king's court. An interesting feature about these plays in the kings and most Brahmins are shown as speaking Sanskrit, while women and men other than the king and Brahmin use Prakrit. This most famous play, Abhi Abhijana Abhijanana Sakuntalam, is the story of love between king named Dushyanta and young woman named Shakuntala. We find an interesting description of the plight of a poor fisherman in this play. A fisherman finds a ring. A fisherman found a precious ring which the king had given to Shakuntala, but which had been associated swallowed by a fish. When he went to the place with it, the gateman accused him of theft, and the chief police officer was rather rude. However, the king was appalled when he saw the ring and sent reward for the fisherman. Then the police officer and the great man decided to take a share of reward and went along with the fisherman to have a drink. Do you think that if a poor man finds something and report this to the police, he would be treated like this today? Obviously not. Name a famous man who taught in Prakrit and a king who issued inscriptions in Prakrit. Obvious. Ashoka maybe. Or Siddhartha. This Chinese pilgrim, Payang, noticed the plight of those who were treated as untouchables by the height and mighty. They were expected to live on the outskirts of the cities. He writes, if such a man enters a town or marketplace, he strikes a piece of wood in order to keep himself separate. People hearing these sounds know what it means and avoid touching him or brushing against him. And Vanavata provides us with a wide picture of a king's army on the move. The king's army. The kings traveled with enormous amount of equipment. Apart from weapons, there were things of daily use such as pots, pans, furniture, golden footstools, food, including animals such as goats, deers, rabbit, vegetables, spices, carried on carts or loaded onto pack animals such as camels and elephants. This huge army was accompanied by musicians, batting drums and other playing horns and trumpets. Villagers had to provide hospitality along the way. They came with gifts of gods and goat and flowers and provided fodder and the animals. They also try to meet the king and place their complaints and patience before him. The army left and trail of destruction behind. Elephants often trampled down the hordes of villagers, and the oxen yoked to the cart caravans of merchants ran away, escorted by the tumult. As Banavata says, the whole world was swallowed up in dust. Make a list of all the things that were carried with the army. What did the villager bring for the kings? The several gifts like God and many other things. So this is the end of chapter, and now we have to just discuss some questions. Harshvardhan's army will visit to your village next week. Wow. Your parents are preparing for the visit. Describe what they say and do. So firstly, what I will say and what I will do. Firstly, we will provide the gift that is for we prepared for the Harshvardhan. Then I will say, king, not king, Maharaja, we have lots of lands, and we also want a good good farm near the main road of our society. Or some tools for digging the or plowing the farms. Not more than that. And also we will argue that the person who are more powerful than us, they will not people, they don't treat not only us but also any people badly or in the wrong manner. That's the thing. State whether true or false. Harisena composed Parasasti in praise of Gautam Pura Shri Kanti. Yeah. The rulers of Aryavarta bought tribute for Samudragupta. Bought tribute. Confused. There were 12 rulers in Dakshin Panthaya. Takshashila and Madurai was an important center under the control of the Gupta's ruler. Yeah. Aihole was the capital of the Palwas. I don't know. I am coming. Not. Local assemblies functioned for several countries in South India. Yeah. Next objective question. Mention 3 authors who wrote about the Harshvardhana. And his quoters Kalidas, and the quote person or more poem who wrote that after that the Hers was no anymore. Hers has no anymore hers. What changes do you find in the army at this time? Lots of changes. Many changes in dress, weapons, and the strategies that are used in modern days. What were the new administrative arrangement during this period? Administrative arrangement is not completely, but the theme is same nowadays also. the person who is connected with the authoritating figure, they are powerful. Let us discuss, what do you think Arvind would have to do if he was acting as Samudragupta? He should fight lots of war. He should go for taxes, keeps some ministers for praising the poems for him. Do you think ordinary people would have read and understood the precious? Give reasons of your answers. Precious, I know and I about precious. So some important dates: beginning of the Gupta dynasty, 1700 years ago. The rule of Harshavardhana about 14 years ago. So that's all for today, and tomorrow the last chapter going to be discuss buildings, paintings and books. That is chapter 10. Thank you.